Welcome back to Comic Book Nation Season 5, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of ComicBook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me in the studio today is my co-host, Matthew Aguilar.
What up?
And checking in from her illustrious home studio is our other co-host, Janelle Wheeler.
Hello, everyone.
And today we have so much to do. So in our breaking new show format, half a decade in, I told you guys we'd start giving you kind of a rundown of what our segments, we do about 10 to 15 minutes, and we got a lot to cover today. So here's what we will be covering. First, we have some breaking news. We got to talk about a trailer that just dropped in the gaming world / TV world for the new Twisted Metal Peacock series. Then we have to recap everything that just happened at CinemaCon 2023, and by everything I mean the stuff we actually care about, we will be talking about, including like big trailers for The Flash, a Flash screening, other big trailers, Transformers. Oh. We got so many trailers to talk about today, so we're going to be doing that. Then we will have our ad break, and afterwards we have an early reaction to talk about for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. My eyes have seen it, guys, and I'm hiding a lot now through this stoic expression, but there's a lot of emotion. So I'm going to give you guys a spoiler-free reaction and a kind of tease of what to expect for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We will be having a special guest from Comic Book Gaming to talk about review the new Star Wars game, Jedi Survivor. Plus, we got to talk about some new comic debuts that happened this week in DC and Marvel. And, oh my God, this is so much I can't even do it in one mouth. Full. We will also be having a bonus time segment on our YouTube channel where we talk about the first impressions of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So, like I said, we are going all over the map today. So let's start up top with our breaking news. Right before we hopped in here, we got the first trailer for the Twisted Metal Peacock series. So Anthony Mackie is starring in this series, and he stars in this trailer. And when we threw this in here and made people put the video in, we thought it would probably be more substantial. But it's just a trailer that kind of basically, this is a teaser in the true sense of the word. And basically, it just shows Mackie in a car. He's packing up some shotgun shells into a shotgun. He pops open a classic CD book. If you're a 90s kid who drove in the 90s, you remember those CD books for your life.
Thing stolen. That hurt me.
I mean, that was a big, that
was like a 20 sleeve.
Yeah.
It was a 20 sleeve CD.
Yeah. And, and even your thing, and I keep forgetting the name of this, even your club couldn't protect your CD book.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The club could save your car, but it couldn't save your CD book. But
how we sound the Lord now.
Yeah, we get an unusual musical choice in the form of Steal My Sunshine by Lamb. I forget what's the name of that group.
Oh, Lammy something. Lammy.
I just thought it was Lamb. I don't know.
Okay, please.
Okay. Anyway, you steal my sunshine.
Very unusual musical choice. Oh, thanks. And yeah.
But then we get to the end.
Yep.
And that's the big thing.
Yeah, we get a little bit of a tease of actual Twisted Metal, right?
Of actual Sweet Tooth and Samoa Joe. Joe, baby. He's gonna be she's King Shark. And Sweet Tooth. That's if you're looking for a post, so we even touching some wrestling today. We're going all over the map. We got it in there.
But,
it does set a vibe.
It does.
I will give it credit.
Yes, it's really about the last 5 seconds of this trailer, which shows you burnt up America and Mackie's character driving in a fight, and like you said, kind of Samoa Joe as a clown who's what's his name, Sweet Tooth. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in his truck outside Vegas, that iconic image. Yeah. And he looks sweaty and gross and scary. And so I'm kind of psyched for this. This looks like it could be a lot of fun if the episodes are kind of kept simple and we get good sequences of them just having to drive places and fight people along the way. So it looks like, if nothing else, Anthony Mackie's going to have a great time kind of hamming it up in this. And I love Mackie and a good slice of ham, so I'm not going to complain.
It's true. Yeah, I think it's a good fit. It's got a zombie land kind of, if it nails that kind of vibe of just moving, hey, make a whole episode about going to the grocery store, right? Because you got to run for supplies or do whatever. And then something crazy happens and one of the other characters shows up, right? I mean, it kind of in some ways writes itself. So I hope they kind of just embrace that. Because honestly, when this got announced as a series, I was like, huh. It's kind of like when Gran Turismo got announced as a movie, and I was like,
yeah, it's like those two things should probably be flip-flopped or something, right? Yeah, it was curious. Janelle?
Yeah,
Metal Gamer.
Yeah, this is exciting. Obviously, like they didn't really give us much to go off of. I just kind of feel bad for Anthony that he had to do like "Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines" as his quote. Like that's the only thing we get to see. It's so lame. But other than that, hopefully it's cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is one we're going to be keeping an eye on, and I know a lot of you will too, because Twisted Metal is really popular. I mean, if you ever,
I love the
you're
game.
a PlayStation lover. I mean, this was your life for a time. 4-player Twisted Metal was your life.
I wish I was better at the Twisted Metals, but I always liked them and enjoyed them.
It was hard for me.
Yeah, I just suck at them sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard when you're getting murked all the time. I know. Distance nerding, I know. I said Samoa Joe, he's supposed to look sweaty and gross in this. They did a good job. That was a compliment. You'd be like, thanks. Yeah. I'm not trying to start no smoke with Samoa Joe. Everybody chill.
Please do not.
Yeah. All right, moving on. So that was our breaking news. But our first topic today was talking about CinemaCon 2023. So as you can see, we weren't there. We sent to CinemaCon, we sent our Marvel podcast guy and our Pokemon podcast guy. So they went to CinemaCon so they could tell you all the firsthand good stuff. What we here are budgeted for at Comic Book Nation is telling you all the fun stuff that everybody else told us. So that's what we are going to tell you. All right? Because our organizational status and our organization in its decisions are curious sometimes, but here we are. So we're going to tell you all the stuff that we heard people tell us was cool at CinemaCon 2023. Strap in. Here we go. All right, first up, man, Sony got weird on us with this Kraven the Hunter. So Matt hasn't gotten his Cardiac movie as a Spider-Man spinoff, but we are getting Kraven the Hunter, and it dropped its first footage at CinemaCon 2023. And suffice to say, I don't think it was what any of us were expecting, right? Like, it sounds kind of very Deadpool-ish. There was a scene of Kraven biting out a guy's eye that I heard. Hyper-violent. Kind of like very even on the borderline, maybe even like ridiculously comic booky. We're going to get like a real comic accurate Rhino, which I'm curious to see. And if nothing else, I've gone from knowing nothing and caring nothing about Kraven to being intently curious about what the hell this movie is and like what they're doing with it. Because I mean, this sounds like it could be either just a really kind of Sony taking a breakout swing at getting its own kind of Deadpool flavor, or just kind of, the next Morbius in a better way with just heaps of cheese that I might like. So I don't know, but what did you guys think? Did you guys?
Are you a fan, BS, of Morbius?
I'm a fan of having a good selection of movies that I can put on when I must do other things. And I just need something for my brain to kind of rest on,
That's Love is Blind.
Good for that.
That was the quote they used for the poster.
Yeah, I know, right? It was great for my brain to rest on.
Are you excited for this?
I'm really excited for this. I have not seen the footage. Like I was trying to find it and I just kept finding like people talking about the recap and like talking about what it was. So I have not seen it. But he looks hot. So that's cool.
I don't remember who's playing him.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Raven?
Okay. Aaron Taylor Johnson, Quicksilver.
Gotcha. There you go.
Yeah, he looks real good.
It's been so long since like I've dove into this movie as far as like what it's kind of like, oh, I forgot who's even like a part of this thing. I will say I think I agree with you completely. I was not like, I've never been like the biggest Kraven person, I will say. Like there's a lot of just Spider-Man has a great rogues gallery, so it's not out of any shade to him. It's just there's so many to pick from. But I will say this does make me curious. I am far more curious now than I was before, and I do actually want to see footage. It does seem like it really depends on how the violence is depicted. If it's done just to be, like just shock value, but he's like treating it seriously and like it's taking itself super serious. I don't know. It's a weird thing because like Kraven's always been violent, has no problem with being violent, but like, dude's got a code and there's like, I don't know. That just seems like if it's just straightforward like that, it seems lazy, like a lazy depiction of the character. But I have no idea if it's treated with a little humor and a little bit like, oh, hey, it's self-aware. I'm down for it. That could be cool. And I like self-aware Kraven. I like Squirrel Girl Kraven. I think he's great. It's ridiculous and embraces the funny, and I think it's cool. So I'm excited. If this is more Deadpool, you got my attention.
All right. So that was Kraven. Let's talk. We don't have to say too much about it because I don't think they showed some stuff, but I don't think anything we can see. But Across the Spider-Verse is almost here, and they're teasing that there could be some pretty big cameos. I think the producers have even said, like, I don't think the cast of the movie even knows fully, like, who all is up in there and how many voices and people they got through the door to do some cameos, but we know there are going to be some big ones. So
Cardiac's coming.
Oh my God. So everything is on the table. We're hearing like Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield and Toby, and I think that could be like the tip of the iceberg. I think you could get some pretty fun ones. There are a lot of cameo rumors for this summer kind of floating around the interwebs right now, but yeah, we're gonna be keeping an eye on Spider-Verse because that's gonna be here sooner than we think. So that was also at the Sony panel. But let's talk about the big thing that kind of really stole the show, which was a new trailer for The Flash that came out. So we got the second trailer for The Flash, and in a lot of ways, I feel like this was CinemaCon was another big win for DC in terms of kind of marketing this movie. But we'll get into some of the complications in a minute. But yeah, this was a crazy trailer. It showed off a lot more of the Michael Keaton Batman kind of history of it all. There's some teases that there could be even some cameos from those Batman films that this one in particular, like, who is that? We're seeing the back of the head. It's not Keaton, I don't think. So who is that? There's a lot of good things that this movie kind of sets up without spoiling. Again, it's crazy that we don't really know the central kind of, if there's a villain, because we've heard rumors that there's a villain, but we haven't seen anything, which is kind of like the Flashpoint comic.
Yeah.
For a lot of it. Zod in the threat of the Kryptonians being the obvious conflict.
It was more about the effects of what he did as opposed to a person orchestrating it all. It was him. Yeah. Like, that was the point. He's the villain.
Yeah, exactly. And his decisions kind of like, messing up, and the selfishness of that decision and how it reverberates, of course, is the focus. So I'm not mad at that, but just everything visually, Andy Muschietti looks like he's really just reached kind of a new height as a director, kind of making this. And they're just some crazy shots, and it looks like it makes Keaton's Batman like really kind of a star of this, and kind of able to play in this more fantastical DC world that he never got to touch in his time. So I'm really all about that. And like, this looks like, if nothing else, DC has a shot at really making a big, good, kind of crowd-pleasing superhero epic. Ben. Yeah, the Batfleck of it all, man.
Look at him. This is the blue.
Yeah, this movie. These trailers and the footage have all been making me like, if nothing else, it's like what we could have done with Batfleck if we had just
every time I see him, I'm always just like, it's the same way I feel about Henry Cavill's.
And Superman. I know this is going to be unpopular, and I'm sorry to turn on all my internet bros.
Oh, what?
But it also makes me wonder, like, interested to have seen more Batfleck outside of just Zack Snyder's Batfleck.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And just because there are shots in this, like him coming out of the plane and like,
I would love to see that Batman movie he wanted to direct.
Yeah, and Ben Affleck's Batman movie, which, be careful with that, because that the Batfleck movie is still raging on social media. But Janelle, how did you feel about this Flash trailer? How are you feeling about this kind of going in?
I mean, I'm very excited about it, but I have to say, like, Batfleck can definitely go away. Sorry, I do not like Batfleck. I don't. Ben Affleck, like, all I can see is like Good Will Hunting in Batman form, and it's just weird. And like, all I can think of is like his personal life, like J-Lo and stuff. I can't take him, like, actor Matt. I can't put him in that role for some reason. Anyways, that's just me. This looks awesome. Very excited. The Flash, the show is coming to a close, which is really painful for a lot of us, like, really big fans of it. And there's been some really stellar moments throughout this last season. So, I'm rewatching the entire Arrowverse right now. So I'm kind of like, that ain't my Barry right now. That's how I feel, because I am in the show. I think the only thing that could be great is if they bring Grant and they do a little switcheroo at the very end, and now he's our new Flash. I mean, I would scream. but it looks great. I can't tell what the tone is. Like, I can't tell if it's really serious. I can't tell if it's kind of cheeky. I can't tell if it feels like I just need to see the movie at this point.
Right. Yeah. I get that.
Because I just don't know. And because I'm so jaded because of all the drama, I don't care how many trailers you give me. I'm just not really excited. Like, it's there. I'll watch it. I'm sure it will blow me away. But I'm just kind of like, every time I see anything, I'm like, okay. Like, I just don't, it doesn't bring the excitement like Guardians. Like, when I see any Guardians trailer or anything, I'm like, oh my God, one of my favorite things ever. But for this, I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, cool. Like, let's see what you got.
Funny. I agree with you on the enthusiasm, but so for me, all of the other pieces to this are why I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
It's Batfleck, it's Michael Keaton, it's Sasha Calle, it's Supergirl. Like, there's so many other things that I'm excited about in this. Every time Flash is on screen, I don't care, because there's a part of me that goes, this movie shouldn't exist, because it should have been canceled a long damn time ago. Yeah. So I still have that. Like, I still have
like our chip on the shoulder.
Invest in, like, there's a heartfelt story here about family and about his loss, and you know, you have Barry's, like, you know, other universe Barry, right? There's all this stuff, and that's supposed to ground everything else. And I can't get invested in that, because I look at that and go, why the hell is it still a thing? Like, there's still a part of me that bothers me, that it's still like that this movie happens.
Well, let's get into it, because now you cracked open the tiger cage. So let's get into it.
So that's just why I'm conflicted. That's all.
So let's just get into this, because, you know, we're talking around this, but at CinemaCon, they held a bafflingly early screening of The Flash. And like I said, our Pokemon podcast guy, Jim Viscardi, and our Marvel podcast guy, Brandon Davis, were there, and they saw the film. Mm-hmm. And the first reactions came out from the usual kind of film Twitter circle for this movie. Overwhelmingly positive. People saying it, people loving the kind of cameos, the story, the thing. And almost immediately, an entire wave of backlash began. And it just painted the picture for how this is all going to play out. And it's going to get ugly. Yeah. Because there were people inside the industry and outside the industry who came for the people who saw the screening and were saying, like, giving their opinions about and saying anything positive. They got came for supporting and promoting this film. And there's already clearly going to be an insane Twitter kind of subculture of people chastising and slamming people who go to and see this movie for the very reasons we're talking about, the Ezra Miller of it all, and kind of what they've done behind the scenes and the still unfolding crime saga that's going on around this. So, yeah, this is going to be a weird one. And WB tripled down on this and said this was too important, too expensive. They couldn't dump it. They were going through with it. They need to get to this franchise reset. And this could very well be a story of saying, I mean, where Ezra Miller comes out of this and we say bye-bye to them. And, you know, drinking some friends, I'm sure this movie will put them out to pasture and kind of maybe even reset us with a new Flash and all that. But, yeah, it's going to be really tough to go and be like, they did a fantastic job carrying this movie and it's emotional, and kind of not remembering, you know, the whole off-screen things, especially when it's a scene about, you know, sneaking around his own home, trying to prevent a murder, all this stuff that's going to be way too triggering of real life events to kind of ignore. Now, what I have said in all of these discussions is it sometimes gets hard to kind of separate the bubble of who we are as like hardcore fans, entertainment enthusiasts, journalists, all that stuff from like what mainstream moviegoers care about. I don't think, and I still don't think, that Ezra Miller is big enough in a mainstream setting for a mainstream audience to know about all of this and or care about all of this. So far, I think the vast majority of the demographic of people who are excited and kind of interested in this movie are people who just saw these big trailers, which have been so carefully timed for like big events, like, you know, Super Bowl. Now we got CinemaCon, and all the hype that they generated with the screening. And it's just like, that's what's blipping on a lot of people's radars, and it looks cool. And so people are do it. And like you said, there's easy things to hinge around that. Look, Michael Keaton's Batman.
Michael Keaton is in a lot of this trailer.
Yeah.
That's that's for, oh, wow. Obviously you want to shine a light on Michael Keaton, but that's not that's planned. That's purposeful.
Look at the first trailer. I mean, the first poster for this, even the marketing, it's like Batman in the frame. And there's a little tiny guy.
That's on purpose.
Like, you know? Yeah. And so for the ladies, there's, Sasha Calle's, Supergirl is attracting a whole demographic of people, Batfleck enthusiasts. They keep throwing that in there to get the Snyder Bros still on. And it's like, yes, there's a lot to hinge on around this, but I was having this conversation behind the scenes, and I was just like, about what we're like, how do you even cover this? Like, what do we do? What do we say? Like, what don't we say? And, how do we keep it all real and still, do what we got to do here? And it's going to be tricky because there is, just playing it, I'm just going to be when this movie comes out, and then there is a whole furious uproar, and people see it and be like, what are all these people so angry about? I saw the Flash. It was cool.
Yeah.
And they start reading, and it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to have a whole rediscussion about, like,
oh, no.
Miller's been into and what's going on here. And, like, I
think I just hope they toss that.
And so everybody who's, like, been screaming throughout this development, get ready, because this whole thing is going to enter a whole new arena. So that Mortal Kombat thing we were talking about earlier might be appropriate, but it's gonna get wild because I think this film is going to entertain. And I said, I think I was texting somebody, I was like, man, you gotta love DC. I feel like once again, they are going to somehow snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Like, even though it could be a box office slam, build up all this hype, then people will be like, oh, behind the scenes, and be like, and still like, but can you still start a franchise off this? Yeah. And it's just going to be kind of wild. So we're just going to start a whole new blank franchise and try to resell that. Should be interesting, right? All right.
Very much.
You guys, I'm sorry. I took up a lot of air there. You guys, but Janelle, oh no, you guys got this ball rolling.
Yeah,
you started this. Yeah, get out of here. I just forgot.
I just want Grant Gustin to be Flash. Then I'll be happy.
She wants Grant Gustin to be Flash.
Oh, okay. Grant Gustin, hashtag.
I don't know how, if you're just like doing all the fan service, just like spreading it around, right? You're like Oprah with this, like, hey, here's your new car, here's your fan service. Why not? Like, why wouldn't you
He's just the perfect Flash. Like, he is Barry Allen.
There's so much to say because, from my job, I have to know some things early. So there's so much I want to say here, but I'm not.
Oh, Kofi, don't do it to me. You want to go get some beers later and have a chat? Off-camera chat.
Yeah. Janelle, sweet Janelle. Oh, man.
Can we move to something?
Yeah. Let's go. Let's move on to something. Yeah. Here's something easy. Transformers. Yeah. Transformers. No, they haven't assaulted anyone.
Oh, stop. Kofi.
I'm not even touching that. Okay. We should. Yeah, you mentioned.
We got to talk about your green nails here. By the way,
what
is going on here?
Look at these.
What is happening?
Incredible Hulk.
These were done by my wonderful daughter this morning.
Girl dad.
Ember did my nails this morning. Picked the green.
I have nail envy for sure.
I'm more ashamed that it's taken me 28 minutes and 46 seconds
to notice?
Realize that you have green nails.
Yes. They've been on display. Fairness.
All right, but back to Transformers. We're seeing a new trailer for Transformers Rise of the Beast dropped, and this is the kind of thing that marries the classic Gen 1 Transformers lore to the Beast Wars lore. And this trailer was very informative of kind of straightening out some of that. The key thing being, we learned that the Beast Wars guys have just been hanging out on Earth this whole time. They've just been keeping to themselves in the deep jungle, which, prudent move. Stay away from all this drama. But they're going big for this one. It's the start of a whole thing. We got Unicron officially dropped, is kind of the big bad of this new saga.
I'm sorry, but that Air Razor and Rhinox steal the show. There's that whole scene at the end.
All of the Beast Wars creatures steal the show.
All do. But like there's that scene at the end.
Rhinox,
it's amazing.
Yeah, dude, Optimus Primal just swinging on the bottom of a base and taking out and biting the heads off Scorpion, and
then you get Optimus. Obviously, you get the iconic voice. You get RC in here, like Mirage. Like there's so much and that music choice.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Although it did bother me because I was like, you guys are you're like 4 years off. I mean, that was 98 when we were all going DMX.
Oh,
crazy.
I didn't even make the
it was 94
association.
But I just love
that song.
Head. Yeah,
I just love that song.
That was just me as a hip hop head. Don't worry.
But look at that! Look at that! Oh my god! I am so giddy about this damn movie.
Yeah, and more importantly, human characters that I feel like I can stand.
Yeah,
Anthony Ramos and Dominique Fishback, who are both have been killing it in like performance wise. Dominique Fishback was recently in Swarm, Donald Glover's Swarm, and she's been in she was in that HBO series The Deuce, and Anthony Ramos, of course, was in Hamilton and West Side Story. And they both look like we have human characters I can stand. Even Pete Davidson's voice in Jazz, which I thought was going to be or Mirage, not Jazz. Jazz we all want to forget about.
I love Jazz.
We got to forget about that, though. I don't think we can still do that. Michael Bay can't still do that today.
What?
Oh, that Jazz thing was so borderline. Oh, man. Yeah. Anyway, moving right along because we don't talk about Jazz, but Mirage, even Pete Davidson's Mirage does not annoy me as much as I thought it could possibly. And yeah, this looks like, for me, I'm just going to go ahead and say already, I feel like this is going to be the Transformer movie I actually always wanted.
Yeah. This is
and made myself think I was getting with some of the Michael Bay ones, but this looks like it's going to be the Transformers movie and sets up something bigger that I actually am already invested in. You just already tell me there's going to be probably more Decepticons, classic stuff, Unicron, all this craziness going down. I am so in. So yeah, as people are saying in the comments, yeah, I'm back in this franchise. I was out for a long time. Bumblebee gave me hope. And I was like, all right. They could maybe do something here, but that was small scale. Now we're getting.
These are wrestling terms I'm marking out so much.
Yeah, no,
this trailer is so good. I know last time when we watched the teaser, I think it was the teaser, Janelle wasn't as hyped. Like she was like, oh, that's good. What do you think about this one? But do you feel differently? Did it sway you?
I mean, it looks awesome if you are a fan, right? It's like me trying to be like if a new Spice World movie came out, I would be losing my mind. But like maybe Kofi wouldn't be interested in that as much. So like, yes, I think I can say like it looks good. I respect it. I probably won't go see it in theater. That's just me though.
You only watch Spice World 2 if Posh comes back.
Yeah, she has to come back for sure.
You can't do that without the original.
Yes.
That is the thread that links us all together. I love this so much.
I hunted on eBay and bought all the dolls for Anissa because we had to have the original set, you know. Spice World got some. We were listening to Stop the other day, by the way.
Right now, thank you very much. Oh yeah. So good.
All right, let's move on to the next trailer. We got. Oh, is it me now? I think it's me. Is it Witcher time?
I think so. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. We got kind of like slight updates on some of the Marvel movies and stuff like that, but nothing really to speak of. I don't think that I'm missing. So yeah, we can jump over to The Witcher.
Witcher. I think the biggest. This was obviously too. This is very much a teaser trailer. So this one kind of sets up that they're all together at some point, but they're all, kind of, they very much keep all the monsters off screen. I still love this trailer. It's a get you hype for a full trailer type of teaser. And I think it did that effectively. The big takeaway from it is that it's being split into 2 chapters, but this is the good kind for me. This is the U version where it's only a month apart. So one is in June, one is in July. So they'll be splitting those. So I'm okay with that. I know there was some blowback to that online, like, well, why aren't you doing it all at once? But I don't care. Just give it to me in a timely fashion. 4 months or whatever. What show were we talking about where it was it Titans? It was Titans where we were talking about the jump between. That's too long.
Yeah, that was crazy.
But a month, yeah, I'm good. You give people time to digest all that and then move on to the next one. But this one, I've been waiting for these 3 to really be all together and take on the Wild Hunt. You get teases of that. So I'm hyped for this, man. It's Witcher time. It's almost Witcher time.
Yeah, I want to be more excited, but Oof. I mean, I'm still so. It's one of those things. Like now, I'm kind of like in the boat where where Janelle is with the Flash. It's like all the behind the scenes stuff is beginning to mess with me.
Yeah,
and like it's hard for me to get excited and invested when I know I was like, all right, this will be the chaotic last season that Henry Cavill did before we get to Liam Hemsworth.
Yeah,
and that makes me a little nervous, but. I have never been disappointed when The Witcher arrives and having it for those binges and the time that's here. And so far, it looks like, they're getting more budget. Things look like more polished. And
every
and like
season
you
can tell they get more money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They get more money. The wigs get better. The effects get better. But more importantly, also, I think we're settling into kind of a story point that'll be the most. Of course, you got to kind of watch the other stuff.
Right.
But in terms of coming back and just being able to sit down and watch and digest this will be kind of, I don't know what word to use, not the most straightforward, but the most kind of easily and excitingly digestible part of the lore, where I feel like there will be enough propelling us forward that all the deep lore stuff won't get too distracting for people, and we'll be able to be
I also
excited.
feel like the linchpin, I feel like Frey Allen's Siri has like come a long way in just 2 seasons. And I think this season, she like the second half of season 2, she was fantastic. Like she was actually one of the anchoring characters of that season, as opposed to the first one. Cause she's, you're just getting to know her. She's so tied to a bunch of lore, but she was, younger. And it's just kind of like, you're not able to explore some of that yet, cause they weren't all together. And so there's a bunch of stuff, right, in the timeline. So here, I really feel like season 3 is going to be like the season where it's like, yeah, Geralt is obviously will never not be the lead, but she's as important. she's right there. And I think we're gonna see her kind of really make that jump in season 3, which is good. And I'm stoked. I'm hyped. Yeah,
I'm also interested to see how the universe feels now that we have this expansion with these multiple prequels and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting.
Are you hyped, Janelle?
Yeah, I'm really hyped, but like I obviously don't know anything of what's going on. Like this trailer doesn't give me information. It's just like, hey, here's a bunch of flashes of cool images. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I didn't really need them to be excited anyways, but I'll take them.
I'm much more interested to see when the full trailer drops.
Yes,
agreed. Really story seeds and stuff, but so that's what you.
All right, so finally, we got a trailer for the Hunger Games prequel. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and it's weird, man. It's weird. It's not because the film itself is weird. It's an interesting take. This whole project, which is kind of being launched multimedia with the book and the movie, kind of coming back to back from Suzanne Collins. It's kind of nuts, and we're not going to go too deep in this. Richard's telling us we got to take a break and pay some bills and do all that, but check that out on Comic Book Movies because it's interesting. And I'm wondering if the Hunger Games can really make this jump to a prequel and have us all invested, because I feel like the Katniss Everdeen of it all was like a big part of those books.
Yeah.
And of course the Gale and Peeta romance. So seeing stuffing where I'm also supposed to figure out how to root for Snow in some kind of way is been really weird because they went to great lengths to make him a child murdering monster in like the first one. So weird project. I am interested to see if they can pull that off. Go check that out on Comic Book Movies. We are going to take an ad break, but when we come back, I'm going to give you my early reaction to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Spoiler free, of course. And we have somebody coming on to give you guys a review breakdown of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, plus new comics. Stay tuned for all of that. welcome back to Comic Book Nation, Season 5. I have a working earpiece now, so I can hear Janelle Wheeler whenever she talks.
What? You couldn't hear me?
Oh, no. You guys never check our message threads in this show behind the scenes. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
I was like saying, I'm sorry if I'm talking over you. I literally could not hear you, but now I can. So hi, nice to talk to you.
Hi, Kobe. Looking snippy today.
Hey, but I don't think Rich could hear us. So during the break, because while he was in the booth, we said we're gonna bring out our special guest today and have him come out now, so he's not just sitting back there hanging out. Logan Moore is with us from the comic book gaming team.
What up?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, and we're gonna have you break down Star Wars Jedi Survivor in just a moment. But first, I gotta do my whole spiel because these eyes have seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and we're gonna talk about it. Here it goes. So, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 coming out next week, and if you've been seeing anything I've shared on social media, I said that it's good to report that this trilogy goes out on a high note. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, there's a lot of stuff to love about this movie and to kind of really enjoy. It has, I basically will say, and I'm going to tweet this and kind of secondary tweet now that I've had a night to digest, is in some ways I feel like this movie is kind of review proof in a way, because no matter what happens and what you see on screen, behind it all, what you're really seeing is this group of people who have grown really close and have had this amazing time kind of working together, putting their all into having one last great time together, putting together this movie. And there are just so many hints of that during the movie, from the sequences to kind of the interactions they're having to just key moments that are purposefully meta between the actors and stuff, that you feel the emotion of all these emotions that they're feeling, kind of the joy, the fun, the bittersweet sadness, and moments of real sadness and stuff. And that all translate on screen in a very real way. Now, this for me, I said, and there were a couple of us from Comic Book. It was like me, Chris Killian, Jamie Lovett, who was just here. And we were talking after the film about, how do you rank this? For me, I think it's still number 1, then it's number 3, then it's number 2. Other people had this at the top as the number 1, but I think it does fulfill and deliver what you wanted from this Guardians of the Galaxy franchise and from this last chapter, and does some interesting kind of new things. This has, and I tweeted this out, one of the best Marvel villain performances I've ever seen, from Chuck Woody. Chuck Woody Iwuji, and we got to start getting that right, because this man's gonna be getting a lot of work. As the High Evolutionary is one of the most freaky kind of villain performances. It's something that could be so flat otherwise. He makes really have depth and kind of menace from the way this guy's mind works and his mania and all of that. And one of the single best action sequences in all of the MCU that I would say you get in this movie. That said, there is a lot of it that's very unexpected. There's a lot of this that goes to different kind of beats, literally and figuratively, than you would have expected from James Gunn. There's some ways in which he breaks the mold from the opening sequence and the way that kind of plays out into just some of the musical choices and some of the way the movie works. There's an element of this, and I know people are going to freak out when I say this, but has that kind of Last Jedi to it, that kind of everything is not so easy and everything is not so heroes, villains, cut and dry. There are complexities, there's depth, there's life, there's scars, there's, all these things you got to deal with. And so there is a little bit of emotional complexity to it and depth to it, and a little bit of challenge in some of the kind of choices that are made. Also, there are some kind of ways that James Gunn knows he's going out and this is it. And he literally, and puts it in the movie, don't give an F. Like, he's going to do some things that he's just going to want to do. And some of the Marvel stuff he doesn't care about anymore. And you can tell in this movie that he's like, whatever, I'm going to do what I want, and it's not going to be my mess anymore. So there are going to be some furious debates about that. get ready for Adam Warlock debates. There are going to be some big Adam Warlock debates. And I can't wait for that because deep down, I know people don't know jack rabbit about Adam Warlock. But yeah, he's going to get defended like he is the greatest
I know.
icon of Marvel ever. But like people like, yeah.
There's a reason he doesn't always have an ongoing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And people are that's going to be
a great character when he's
big debate topic. But I think a lot of people are going to come out of this, you know, James Gunn completes the journey. You know what I mean? Like there is definite resolution to what this trilogy was. I'm knocking my mic around, getting too emotional, and what it was about, who these characters are and who they were about and what they were about. And where it leaves things is interesting. And that's all I'll say. I won't talk about emotional battery or impact. I will say, and this is already one thing that's coming up, is there have been some people who are very angry about this movie and getting really triggered about it because, I'm so sorry, Rich and Aaron in the booth. I'm so sorry. I've slapped this mic around like it owes me money. Wow. It has a lot to do, and we've seen this in the trailers, in the clips, and they've tried to prepare you, but this has a lot to do with some hard stuff dealing with animals, animal experimentation, animal cruelty. Is obviously a big part of this story. And if you know anything about the High Evolutionary or Rocket in his story, that shouldn't be surprising. But some people, and I think it's to James Gunn's credit as a director, in like I said, Chuck Woody's performance as High Evolutionary, that these moments are freaky and intense, and some of them are really dark and scary. Like there are parts of this, like I would never take like my child to see under like age of 8 or 9. There are some key moments in this movie that are too freaky for that, but that triggers some people. So you got to know that going in, because
too freaky or too like traumatic.
Both.
Okay.
You know, people, we live in this weird thing. People can get really triggered about animals. You know, we can watch a human being get their face shredded off in Saw or Evil Dead, but somebody slaps like a rabbit in a movie and everybody's like,
it's very hard. I'm one of those people. It's very hard for me to see. I'm like crying immediately.
Not someone get their face shredded either.
But I'm saying we live in this weird gray area of society where like those one carries much more weight than the other. So people are seeing some of that in this and getting really, really angry about it. And
so what you're saying is I'm going to be vegetarian after this.
Oh yeah. I mean,
okay, I'm ready. I was almost there anyway, so this will just push me over the edge.
But that all said, I think this is going to be a very big Marvel film. I think it's going to capture back some of the magic of.
Does it hit a bill? Do you think it hits a bill? Because it's been a minute since we've really had that traditional Marvel hit $1 billion type thing.
No, I don't think so. I don't think.
Really?
No, I don't. I think this is, again, this, and we were saying this. This is not an MCU movie. This is not an MCU event film whatsoever. This movie is literally just the sequel to the Guardians holiday special and the end of the Guardians trilogy, and that is all that it cares about. James Gunn don't give an F about the MCU anymore, about all this large stuff, all this stuff. None of that. Like, this is the end of Guardians, his Guardians trilogy, and that's it. So I think this movie is going to appeal to everybody who loves the Guardians series, but it's not going to draw in anybody new. It's not going to be an event film so big that like people are hearing, and like the whole next Endgame stuff, like that's a little overblown. Like it's a really good Guardians story and ending.
So it's too long.
And it's 2.5 hours. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty long.
He said it was the next Endgame. And I said, so it's too long.
I mean, it's pretty long, but this is just
it drags in the first act. What? I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is the victory lap for James Gunn and them after having things almost go so wrong, right?
I don't mean to throw grenades.
I know. Yes. But that's the story with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So for everybody who, all the generation, this was your Star Wars, like, you got a better trilogy, okay? And this was a better trilogy ending. There's no Ewoks, so chill. Everybody's going to be okay. Ewok. I know, but they didn't like them at the time.
Oh, that's true.
So, good ending to the trilogy and a good film, but like, still a lot of questions about what this larger
plan is
for the franchise right now. Because James Gunn just got his exit. Now he's done. And it's just still like, we got a lot of mess to clean up in this franchise right now. But yeah, check out, and I know you will. Go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and go see it on IMAX. We got to see it on IMAX and it was gorgeous, like absolutely gorgeous in IMAX. There are so many. This is, easily the most beautiful and well produced and shot Guardians film of the batch. So really well done. All right. And some fun surprises. All right. So that's Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and that's all I'm going to say. Moving right along, it is Logan Moore's time to shine. Logan, you have been deep in a galaxy far, far away, playing through the next chapter of the Star Wars Jedi game franchise. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. What are your impressions? I know this game is huge. Let's just say that off the bat.
Yeah.
This game is pretty big, and so you're kind of just knee deep in it, but what are you thinking so far?
Yeah, I've so our full review is up on the site. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5, so I liked it quite a bit. I think it is a pretty notable step up compared to everything that was seen in Fallen Order. There are some problems that I have with it that we could dig into here and there. I think the story's got some pacing problems, and I think some of the dynamics between the characters could have been fleshed out better and things like that. But for the most part, this is the type of Star Wars game we need more of in the future. Like for the longest time, they were trying to make everything like a live service game or just things that fans weren't wanting. And like, this is a continued example of just give people a lightsaber and give them force powers and a good story. And I think people will be absolutely hooked. Like this game from start to finish is a ton of fun.
So what they've kind of cracked the code on these franchise games, I feel like, is getting you, ever since Arkham kind of really opened the door, literally and figuratively, to putting you in the character's shoes and making you feel like that character. So like you feel like Batman, you play the Spider-Man games, you feel like Peter or Miles. And even with its flaws, which I was going over with our game editor Tanner the other day, it took me a long time. I bought Fallen Order, tried to play it, ran off for like 4 months before I would come back to it because of some of the structuring problems in that game. But it did make you feel like you were a Jedi, especially by the end when you really started to upgrade and have all kinds of crazy powers and doing these battles. And that at least made me feel like a Jedi. And, I wouldn't run around like Martin Lawrence, right? Like screaming around, I'm a Jedi, having a great time. And it looks like this is going to do that even better. And
yeah,
I'm just kind of a couple pointed questions I have. Have they fixed kind of, because Jedi Fallen Order was like loosely open world. Like you could make choices about where to go and do all that, but it wasn't really, because like the thing that kind of spoiled me the first time was I went to a level that was so far advanced in the game thinking, we'll start here because I like this from the lore. And
did you go to Dathomir up front in the last game?
Yeah. And I got just annihilated for like 3 straight weeks. And I was like, why do I want to play this? This is terrible. And I didn't realize, like, oh no, there was this whole other easy training build-up like path to go on so that my levels increased naturally and like the game would be fun. But there was no structure to that. So have they kind of fixed that in this one?
Yeah, I think the last game, so this game franchise in a general sense is like half Metroidvania, half Souls-like, if you're familiar with both of those genres. And the first game leaned much more heavily into the Souls-like style of play, which means like difficulty was an intrinsic part of it. Like it was supposed to kind of kick your teeth in at certain points. I think Survivor here is much easier. I can count the number of times that I lost 2 bosses on one hand. I did not have much of a challenge with it whatsoever. I think the game definitely streamlines you more. Like it doesn't open itself up in the way that you're talking about, where it's like, I want to go to Dathomir, or I want to go to, I'm trying to think of some of the other planets. I know Kashyyyk is in the last game as well. But the last game gave you a little bit more freedom up front to choose where you would like to go. And this one is more honed in on sending you to specific areas. And then the planets that are in this game are much, much more vast. The central planet is called Kobo, and it is probably 2, 3, 4 times the size of the biggest planet in the last game. And they really flesh out like what is on that planet and the diversity of different areas and stuff that you can go to. So it's less about sending you to a bunch of different planets and you choosing which one you want to go to up front. There are still like 5 or 6, I think, total in the game, but it's more about the density of the planets and things like that. within the game, and you exploring them over time, getting new abilities, and then unlocking new routes to go explore and stuff like that. If you had a trouble with the last game in terms of its difficulty, again, though, this one is, I think, much easier. They toned back a lot of the Souls-like elements and a lot of the difficult combat encounters that I think proved to be challenging for people in the last game.
And my second question, because to go with that excellent first answer, is this is kind of the game that's kind of beginning to force us to go next gen, right? How does it look in a next gen format?
This is like the weird part of how I played this game. So my answer is not going to be fantastic on this front. The version of the game I played came in very hot, and it was before the day one patch. So I had some performance troubles. I was told to not play with HDR turned on because it could break the version of the game that I was playing. Like, there was a laundry list of like specific things that the publisher told me to, like, hey, be aware of this or the game could break. And also, like, they're like, when the day one patch rolls out, also it could corrupt your save and you could lose everything. So be aware of that. And I had to like back my saves up and stuff like that. So performance wise, I think the people who are buying the game today and playing it are going to have a much better idea of what it looks like. That being said, it looks gorgeous. I had some like texture pop in problems and some performance issues. I have played it since the patch release though, and it seemed to be in a much more stable place. We're still in like that weird middle ground though with the next gen consoles, where I feel like devs are only just now kind of learning how to best take advantage of the hardware. And as the years continue to pass by, I think games will only obviously get better. But we're in this like weird middle ground between wanting to leave behind the PS4, Xbox One, and that stuff and move on to the new consoles. And developers are still kind of working with both and trying to optimize for both. So you're getting weird situations where devs aren't taking full advantage of the new hardware, but even when they do try to release games for specifically the new hardware only, which is the case here with Jedi Survivor, you get the feeling that they haven't learned all the ins and outs of it yet to take full advantage of it. So it's a weird balance right now. For the most part, though, again, the game, it looks gorgeous. There's just some little hiccups here and there for sure.
All right, so in the end, Logan, you think people who are Star Wars fans should be out there buying this?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I have little qualms with it here and there. I think the best thing I can say about this game, and I think the thing that will make people the most happy if they played Fallen Order, which was the last one, is that Cal Kestis is like a phenomenal Star Wars protagonist. I think he is the star of Survivor, even more than he was in Fallen Order. This game takes place 5 years after the last one, so he's more mature. He's kind of settled into his role as a Jedi. He's less of this scared kid trying to learn his Force powers and Force techniques, and he's just kind of become used to being this Jedi Knight who's taking on the Empire, and he really serves as a fantastic catalyst for the story to revolve around. There's a lot of depth to his character in this game, a lot of great themes. I think he's one of the better characters that has ever come about since Disney has bought Star Wars overall in any of the pieces of media. So I think on that front, this game is something that Star Wars fans will really, really like and get a lot out of.
And final question, does it add, because this is a canonized game, so does it add interesting things to Star Wars canon?
Yeah, I don't want to say too much about this because I know the developers have kind of kept this under wraps. The game's out now though, so people are going to learn more about this stuff. The core of the plot though does tie in heavily with High Republic era Star Wars stuff, which they have been exploring more in the books the past couple of years. To my knowledge, there's not many of the characters from the books that are referenced or appear in the game. I was actually asking Jamie about this as well, because I was like, hey, does this character mean anything to you? Because I've not read the books, and I know he does read up on all that stuff. But they do start to fold in more of those larger world things. As far as other things that happen within the context of this time period in the Empire, there's not a lot that they fold in. There are cameos and things like that come into play, but it's nothing that's going to totally reshape the Star Wars universe or anything like that.
All right. Well, Logan, thank you very much for giving us the breakdown of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. You guys can follow all the kind of playthrough breakdowns, all the big kind of details you want to know from the game. If you're not playing, it'll be over on both comic book, I think Star Wars and Comic Book Gaming. So check those out in the coming days and weeks as we go through this, because like Logan said, it's a huge game. So there's a lot more we got to get into. So
there's a lot of stuff that, like I said, there's a lot of cameos and spoilers and stuff that will, obviously we don't want to say too much about now, but as the game continues to be out, people will start talking about more. And I'm sure those will prove to be big discussion points that we'll probably touch on here on the site.
So throw that bookmark into comicbook.com gaming. And Logan, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Matt, hop us over for a final segment of the day. We are going to be talking some new comics that debuted this week.
Yeah, it's fitting for my nail color. I gotta say, we're gonna start with Green Arrow. Green Arrow -- 1. Aren't you excited about that? You're excited about that. Joshua Williamson relaunched the character in a new ongoing series, and if you've paid attention to social media, it really seems like he's a huge fan of the character, and I feel like that comes through. At least for me, it came through in this issue. There's so much to be said for like the extended family, the extended Arrow family. There was always kind of a little mini Arrowverse in the comics, and it's kind of grown over time. And I think this captures that. And while it has to kind of move to some of the other players and some of those other characters and away from Ollie, I always felt like, number one, I think his narration really helps. I think that he's narrating throughout the book, so you feel like his presence is there. And then he also kind of bookends things. So I felt like, even though, yes, it is a Green Arrow book, and while he's not in every single page of the book because of things, I still thought his presence loomed over it. And especially as things made their way towards the end, I thought it really captured like a lot of the really great aspects of Green Arrow and the extended family. I was really excited. Like I've always liked Green Arrow. I think my favorite iteration is still Justice League, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited Green Arrow, because I just adore the animated series Green Arrow.
Yeah, it was great.
But I've loved several of the books and things. So like I come at it from, I'm a fan of the character, but maybe I'm not like as big a diehard fan as others. And I really enjoyed this. So I think like diehard fans especially will probably find even more to love about this. I think Roy anchors a lot of it. I don't know. I think Roy, like having him back in the fold and the whole thing with like him and his daughter and stuff, I think all that like will be one of the bigger anchors of the book going forward. So I really dug it. But what'd you guys think?
Oh man, this one, it was weird, but not in a bad way. Like there was a lot of this that's weird because there's a lot of Green Arrow lore that it kind of hops through and recaps. And a lot of this issue is doing that. And I needed it because we've seen so many of these characters over now, so many different media forms, and like people attach them, like you said, whether it's like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. People know Roy Harper from Young Justice now and a whole thing. The Arrowverse has its own version of this, of course, with Black Canary and, Oliver Queen and Connor and like all of this stuff. So, Green Arrow's gotten some weird amount of shine in media, but it's like it's hard to pull it together to where we are right now in DC comic lore with the character. And they literally pulled him out of the rebirth process. And so I think for me, what was weirdly in kind of this was just timing wise, was just coming off of Supergirl, World of Woman of Tomorrow, and basically having like Green Arrow, Hooded Man of Tomorrow, like on his own weird crystal planet and whatever's going on there. And I'm the most interested about that right now. Not to say I'm not interested, but it was weird to read a Green Arrow book that had to do with like phantom people appearing and disappearing, and then like a name drop of Amanda Waller at the end and multiversal stuff. Because you think when it's like Green Arrow, your mind automatically kind of goes back to the basics, like arrows, bows and arrows, and shootouts, and fist fights, and so they're getting weird with it. And so I'm not doubting it, but I'm just kind of like, it did the job of a first issue. I was like, I got to see where this goes a little bit, because this is looking kind of strangely weird, especially the twist at the end.
Which is a very Oliver twist. I didn't mean that, but which is a very, like, if you've been reading Green Arrow, I love the ending line of like Green Arrow always has to make these decisions that like reverberate and are typically the opposite of what you feel like he should do, and he's always put in those situations. So I thought that was a great line and way to exit that out. Janelle, what did you think? Because I don't actually know where you stand on Green Arrow.
I'm rewatching the Arrowverse. So I actually really enjoyed this. I'm not very familiar with Green Arrow comics. So I'm kind of new to anything you send my way. And I really like getting to see this side and getting to know Ollie a little bit better and the whole rest of the gang. Like, obviously, it's very different from the TV show, this story. And I really enjoyed that. I thought it wasn't too long, it wasn't too wordy, it was easy to follow. There was an emotional moment in it that really hooked me. And yeah, I feel like it's everything I would want an entry level reading to be for someone like me who isn't as familiar.
Yeah. Oh yeah, awesome. And that's right. Yeah, I always forget that you're in the middle of your Arrow rewatch. And
Yeah.
This is very much not the street level. There is an aspect to that when they go over to the family, but the overarching plot is very much not.
And I love that. Yeah, I love that it's different.
I thought it was fresh, and the artwork was great as well. So moving into the next book, we're gonna move into Alien. I'm gonna let you take this because you are much bigger like Alien Predator person than me.
So listen, yeah, the Alien and Predator franchises have kind of set themselves up for these yearly anthologies through Marvel Comics, which they start the numbering over every year because it's like basically a new series, but there are different creators telling stories in the Predator or Alien universe. And I've liked them so far. We've had some really interesting stories. Last year's story was about like some synthetics that get sent into a planet to save these people from a xenomorph outbreak, and it all goes wrong for them and creates this new kind of hybrid alien. It was great. Anyway, I like that. I like the first story about the dad going to save his son and all that stuff. I'm going to be honest. This one was probably the weakest start I've had for one of these Alien books because I read it before you said we were going to read it on the show. Because I was like, oh, Alien. Like, yeah, I love that. Let's get started. And I jumped in and I read the whole thing. And then when you said we were reading it, I was like, what was that book about? I was like, oh God, I don't remember anything about it. And I had to go back, and even scrolling back through it, I was like, I don't remember any of this. And it's because this one's very much a talkie. Like it starts really, this is a slow start book, and I get it. It sets up a whole thing, but it doesn't set up anything that we haven't seen before. This is basically Alien by way of The Thing. If you've ever seen The Thing, like it's the same thing because it's about this mining planet on an ice planet. They dig a face hugger out of the ice and they idiotically throw it in the kind of refrigerator, right? And then, they report it in, and Wayland Utah comes looking because they know that they found a xenomorph specimen. And so they're coming to come see. And that's like the whole of this book. But in between, it's just getting to know the family dynamics of these people who are staying on the base.
Yeah.
And all of that, so that when they're in danger, we care. But it was a little overwrought with like the conversations and the slowness and not really having, I think the aliens actually appear in like maybe one or panel while they're in the ice, and like they never come out and attack anybody. So there's not like a whole lot of violence or anything in this one. So it was just kind of a slow start and a kind of building up. But it was all right.
Janelle, what do you think?
Not a lot happened. So I was just kind of waiting. I was waiting for the little creature to get out of the ice. I was waiting for the aliens down below to come attack. I was just waiting for something. And I think you would do yourself a disservice to not read on from here if you are a fan of Alien, because like you're definitely not getting any of the stuff like you really want out of it. So it just needs a little bit. It needs the next, like, there are certain shows that come out and you're like, I'm just going to wait and binge the whole thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be this vibe.
This is a much better in trade.
Well, I mean, like, what do we have coming out this week? That the Elizabeth Olsen show, Love and Death on HBO Max. And it's like, they did a 3-episode premiere, and you watch it and you realize like why, because there's an arc that really, by the end of that 3rd episode, and you've seen this whole introductory arc till you get to the actual violent murder mystery, the part that's going to hook you. But it took the 3 episodes to build that story up. Yeah. And so I feel like this is one where once we get to this next issue, we'll probably start being like really crazy and getting into some alien stuff. But
yeah, I think you two said it best. I think you summed it up best. It was. I always like have a hard time like label labeling something forgettable. Like my bar for that is a little higher, but it really was. It really was. Like there were things I'm like, okay, like it very much you get to a point and you're like, okay, it's just decompressed for being decompressed. I really need something to kind of hook me. I'm curious about the second issue, so I will probably still read that just to see like, oh hey, does it make a major turn? But first issues for me are like, we talk about them a lot on the show, and I always talk about how like it really is your chance to hook somebody, and they are important to me. And there's a lot of books that happen, and so like I kind of devote my time to stuff that hooks me at this point, you know. So if you don't hook me within 2 issues, probably checking out. Like
there's a lot of
so I'll give it one more, but as of like right now, I wouldn't say I'm like, yeah, keep reading.
Well, it's just, I mean, also, and the whole key to these Alien Predator anthologies is trying out new stuff. And so far, this isn't a new story. It's the same alien story. People on a remote colony, stupid, don't know the xenomorph is dangerous, throw it somewhere dangerous.
How the hell do you look at a face hugger and stick it in the...
I don't know.
Like, what about that says, no, that thing's not threatening at all? Like, I don't know.
The thing looks like a spider parasite. Who is welcoming that into their home? Like, I don't know. Anyway.
Into other books, by the way, of insect and creatures, real quick, you should go read Blue Beetle, because that series just ended. It was its big finale, and then it was just announced that it will get a new ongoing coming. It's the same writer, and it's going to be like coming out of the events that happen here. Like stuff happens here that sets the status quo for that book. So if you are a Blue Beetle fan, you're hyped about the movie, or you've just enjoyed the series, which I have thought is excellent, definitely check that out and get prepared for, you're going to want to read that. It's one of those things that they'll probably give you a good hopping on point. But if you read, especially like the last 2 issues of the series, you'll have a good understanding. So definitely check that out. But that's comics.
All right. Thank you. And that'll do it for our regular show this week. We are Comic Book Nation. If you're just now getting in the show, please go on Twitter and follow us if you can find us anymore at Comic Book Nation. I forget if we have a check or not. You can also check us out by subscribing to our YouTube, which is the place you really want to go, because it'll have all the alerts for our live shows, as well as all the awesome videos that we put out there. And Matt really kind of shepherds that whole thing and does a good job. We got Bat Wheels clips on there right now, Power Rangers interviews, Titans interviews, Mandalorian interviews. We keep up with trailers and all kinds of crazy stuff that we put up there. And most of all, this show is so big, we got to do it all for geek culture, and we can rarely do that in the time allotted for our regular show. So we have our bonus round over at YouTube, and today's no different. I am about to hop over to our bonus round, and we are going to be talking with another member of Comic Book Gaming about another highly anticipated game, which is Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Sequel to Breath of the Wild, and so we are going to talk about that because we've had somebody playing that, and they're going to give you guys some first impressions. So that's already going to be a video we have before Zelda even comes out. We will have a video telling you some first impression breakdowns from playing that. So this is Comic Book Nation. If you want to follow us individually, you can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can find me at Matt Aguilar CD.
And you can find me at Janelle Wheeler.
And as always, if you want to know more about all these things we talk about, just head on over to comicbook.com, where we have many, many sections of geeky goodness for you to get lost in all the time. That'll do it for our regular show. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you guys as we all try to emotionally handle Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 next week, and we will talk about that and so much more. See you guys then. This is Comic Book Nation. Peace.
Bye, everybody.